Hi everyone, welcome to Dr. G's Dandelion Monologues. I would like to share a recent deeper understanding or epiphany I had at the culmination of a very interesting international conference on the sense of disease and the intelligence of the body. And during those wonderful lectures that were so eye-opening, I became even more familiarized with quantum physics. And I think this is a very important key to freeing ourselves from prolonged suffering. I'm not saying freeing ourselves from suffering, period, because suffering is inherent to life, right? To suffer means that we're living, we're experiencing things, we're humans. But what I mean by prolonged suffering and the quantum physics is that once we can channel this understanding and integrate it in our lives, we might avoid dwelling in suffering. Because this prolonged suffering hinders our growth and living life to the fullest. So what do I mean by quantum physics? It sounds a little bit intimidating, right? I get that. But it's actually simple if we just go to the basics, that we are energy mostly, right? Yes, we are made of cells, okay? We can touch our hands and we can hear someone's voice and there's a presence that's tangible, right? But there's also way more than what we see. So in one of the lectures, there was someone who was studying to become a physicist who mentioned that actually what we see, this matter here, this physical body, represents less than maybe 0.001% what we are. He basically says that 99.99% and more is energy. We're in major part made of energy. So, and that's fascinating. So my mind thinks in analogies and images, and immediately I thought, okay, this thing we call the self or an individual or all these things we identify with, right? The ego, basically, which is an illusion, but still, the ego is the house of like all these roles, identities, attributes that we assign to ourselves, right? Or even what we look like. This is still a tiny, tiny fraction of what we really are fundamentally. So I'd like to put all of that in a grain of sand, just for an image, okay? We are what we see. What we think we are is actually a grain of sand in the whole continent, not to say galaxy, of awareness. Because that's what we are, fundamentally. We are awareness or pure consciousness. And that also even supports more the fact that we are interconnected and we have way more in common if we're reminded that we are awareness. Because if I'm 99.99% awareness and you are too, wow, we have that in common. So we tend to inflate those tiny differences in a grain of sand and blow them out of proportion to justify intolerance, hatred, misunderstanding, wars. So the solution to not dwelling in suffering and even world peace would be to see that, to actually realize that we are awareness, mostly. And we should repeat that to ourselves regularly. I am awareness. And therefore, if I am awareness, nobody or nothing can really harm me. I wish I had known that earlier when I went through some difficult life experiences where I felt attacked, judged, criticized, rejected. Because in fact, what these people were trying to do was attack or hurt a grain of sand. But they didn't touch the awareness. This is untouchable. This is your invincible dimension. You are intact. Whatever happened to you, nobody could affect that. Nobody could destroy that. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever seen someone successful in attacking awareness? Of course not. So I wanted to share that insight with you because I thought it was very empowering. And again, this can be the key to end prolonged and unnecessary suffering. All those stories that we add to the initial wound and pain, that would go away anyway, like anything else, because everything is impermanent. So this key can help not prolong that unnecessarily. I wish you to discover and believe that now. Think about it, how liberating it is. These moments when you touched that awareness that you are, right? When you felt like you were more a caring observer of life than a judgmental spectator. Because that's the shift that's happening. We go from the grain of sand to the vastness of a continent or galaxy. Yes, we are all that. Be well. Wishing you peace, and until next time, thank you for joining us today.